for stopping by Angel Gilding. I'm Alex, and today we are talking and working with Galena Mirror. Now, galena is the ancient term used to describe lead sulfide, which is the chemical that we will be depositing onto our glass today. Galena Mirror is a rich, dark color. It's often called pewter, hematite, cobalt. It transmits about 35% of available light, and it's a really nice, deep, rich, reflective mirror. I often think that galena is a great next step for the glass artist that has become familiar with the silvering process and wants to step up their game, wants to try something different. And for our demonstration of galena today, I am working with this beautiful glass rondel. Now, we're partnering today with Monarch Glass Studio. They're a well-respected glass studio located in Kansas City, Missouri. And I was talking with Tyler Kimball, the chief gaffer over there, about his rondels recently. And I realized that this would be a great way to showcase some of our mirroring. And I also thought you guys really should see the work that they're doing there, because it's pretty impressive. So for today, we've got this beautiful glass rondel. You can see that it's clear in color, but it has a really nice texture to it. So on one side it's smooth, and on the other side it's got ridges. And anytime you have a piece that's got that kind of texture, mirroring is a great technique because it's going to emphasize that. The fact that it's reflective means it's going to bounce off of all of those ridges, because we're actually going to be mirroring on the ridged side. And the way that we're going to be doing this is with our 3D bath technique. Now, this is called a 3D bath technique because we are essentially creating a shallow bath of our chemicals in a way that will help deposit the chemicals evenly over a 3D object. So this is often used for small irregular shaped pieces, something that would be difficult to maintain the surface tension that you do need for the sheet glass process, but then maybe it's too small for the spraying process to be truly economical. So 3D is the way to go. So you'll see I'm using all of the different products from the 3D kit. Now that does come with all of the silvering chemicals. So I also have our add-on of our Galena Mirror Kit. This is an add-on kit because it has all of the tool supplies that you need to add on to one of our basic mirroring kits. So without further ado, let's jump right in. We'll start this process as we do start all mirroring processes, and that's with cleaning. There's the powdered glass cleaner sprinkled on the surface, and I'm going to scrub really well with my sponge. All of these are parts of the 3D kit. And keep in mind that my piece has ridges, so I really want to make sure that I've cleaned all of those ridges, and I'm going to clean both sides of the glass because they'll both come in contact with the chemicals in this process. So it's really important to make sure that both sides are clean, and I've got all those ridges. Once I've got it cleaned, I'm going to rinse it well with my distilled water. I'm going to be using distilled water from here on out and just spraying it there into my rinse tub, making sure that all that tap water that we used in the cleaning process has been rinsed off on both sides. Once I feel I've got that nicely rinsed off, I'll put it to the side, and now I want to get all my chemicals measured out. Now there's two differences with galena versus silver, and we're seeing our first difference here. I'm using tin for gold, and that's in place of the tin for silver. Tin for gold is more concentrated, so you'll see that I'm going to be mixing up more than I need for this particular project, and that's necessary to ensure that I've got the right dilution ratio of my tin for gold. And handy little trick here is using the distilled water bottle to rinse out that 10 ml cylinder, and that just saves a cleaning step for me later, and it also helps me to start diluting the chemicals. So I do that just a couple times, and then I'm going to move on with my regular jug of distilled water, and I'm making up 16 ounces of the tin for gold. Like I said, more than I need for this project, but that way I've got the right dilution ratio of my chemicals, and it's all set to go for me there. Galena is also unique in that it has an extra sensitizer. That's going to be my palladium sensitizer, and it's not as concentrated. It's got actually the same dilution ratio as the tin for silver. So I'm going to be measuring some of that out in a separate 10 ml cylinder and a separate 16-ounce cup. These are all parts of the Galena Mirroring Kit. And you'll see I'm just tipping it into my 16-ounce cup there, and then I'm going to rinse it out again. Quick little hack, making sure that I've got that all nicely rinsed out and I've got my palladium diluted. So I've got my sensitizers mixed, ready to go for me. I'll put them to the side, and you can see here I'm measuring out my Galena chemicals. I do this 3 times, just showing you here once how I measure with my mech bottle. And I've got those 3 chemicals ready, so now I can move on to the process of tinning. Rinsing that piece one more time and putting it into my tin tub. I'm going to first start with the tin for gold. I don't pour an exact amount here. I just pour, a good amount to ensure that it's going to fully coat the piece. And I rock it back and forth in that tub, just setting a timer there for about 30 seconds. Once 30 seconds have elapsed, I will rinse that piece really, really well, keeping in mind that I only want the tin that's deposited on the glass, none of that excess tin to remain around, because that's going to affect my mirroring process. So taking my time to rinse both sides once again, and then I need to tip out that excess tin that was in my tub. That's a unique aspect to the 3D process. I'll put my piece back in there and then pour out my palladium sensitizer. So I've got 2 processes of tinning before I go on to the mirroring, and this is also going to rock for 30 seconds. Once my 30 seconds have elapsed, I'm done with the tinning process, and I need to rinse my piece really well. You can see there's no color change, there's no transformation that I can see on my piece. Those tin layers are invisible to the naked eye, but they are what's going to bond my chemicals to the glass. So those are really important, and I want to make sure I've got it rinsed off really well. Keep in mind your distilled water is the least expensive part of the process and is really important. So just take your time and rinse that really, really well to make sure any excess tin has been rinsed off. Once again, focusing on both sides, because with the 3D process, the chemicals are coming in contact with both sides. I've got my separate tub there, and I'm just combining now my 3 Galena chemicals, and you can see that I'm doing those in those glass beakers. It's not essential that they be beakers, but it is useful for them to be either glass or plastic. And that's because if you mix the chemicals in a paper cup, those chemicals over time can actually eat away at that paper cup, and that's not something we want to worry about. So just mixing them there to combine them and pouring them into my Galena tub. And then I'm going to set the timer. And here is where we'll see our other difference with Galena versus silvering, and that's in timing. Galena takes about 10 to 15 minutes to deposit fully versus silver that's just 3 to 5 minutes. And I'll tell you, I've done a lot of Galena mirrors, and every single time I do them, I feel like I've done something wrong because I don't see a change. It took about 2 minutes or so for me to see any of that color change that you're seeing there start to develop. And that's just the Galena chemistry. It just works slower. But you can see with some gentle rocking back and forth, it does start to develop, and it's natural for it to deposit in one area faster than another. You just want to gently rock it back and forth. You don't have to rock the full time, but you can see there how over time that chemical is developing. And a unique aspect to Galena is that you can actually see a color change develop. So you can see there I've got some purpley brown look, and I decided to go the full 15 minutes, and by doing that I went past the purple, past the brown, to this rich, deep cobalt pewter look. You can see that it's really nicely evenly deposited over the surface. Just checking it out to make sure it's how I want it to be, and then rinsing really well with my distilled water. My chemicals have done their work, so any of the excess I want to make sure is rinsed off of the piece on both sides. Once this is rinsed off really well, then I'm going to put it to the side tilted to allow it to dry completely. Once it's dried, I'm going to protect the backing. Now you can see this is actually the front, and you can see that the chemicals have deposited there on the front. I'm not going to worry about that right now. I'm going to turn it back over, and I'm going to protect the Galena that I want to keep. You want to paint the mirroring that you want to keep before worrying about the cleanup, because you don't want your Galena remover to creep over and affect the part of the mirror you want to keep. So that black mirror backing paint is part of our 3D kit, and I'm just gently rubbing over the whole surface there, painting it well. And you do want to check to make sure that the paint is in all of the areas. I noticed on this piece that there was just a pinhole where there wasn't any paint. That paint is what's going to protect the mirror from tarnishing, so you want to take your time and make sure that it's fully coated. Once that's done, then I'm going to once again tilt it and allow that paint to dry completely. That takes a couple hours depending on your environment. Now you can see that it's completely dry and it's a flat matte appearance. That's one of the ways you know that it's fully dry. And now I can move on to cleaning that. Like I said, there's a lot of that Galena chemical on the front, and that's because I didn't use the paint mask in the kit. I didn't mention that earlier, but there is a paint mask, so you could mask off this front area. But I think that sometimes you can just leave it as is and then worry about cleaning that face up later. Now, Galena bonds very strong to the glass, and so it takes a little bit more work to remove any excess. So what I'm doing here is just creating a paste with my Galena remover from my Galena Mirror Kit, and then some pumice that comes in my 3D kit, creating a bit of a slurry there between the two. And that's going to enable me to chemically remove it with the Galena remover, and also abrasive with that gentle extra fine pumice. You can see once I do that, that Galena is coming right up. You can see the Galena from the other side coming through, and I'm going to just keep working through that, cleaning up the face of the mirror, and then we'll be all set. Here it is. I love it. This is our finished Rondell that we mirrored with our Galena mirror. Now, as I said, we mirrored the side that had the ridges, so that means that the Galena mirror is sitting in each one of those ridges and really creating a nice reflective quality. This is something that I just don't think you can achieve any other way than Galena mirroring. So as you saw, it's a pretty straightforward process to do, and a really good technique to have for these types of small irregular shapes. So if you have any questions about this process, about Galena mirroring, or anything else that we covered today, be sure to leave those in the comment box below. We will leave a link to each of the kits that we used today, as well as to Monarch Glass Studios, in the description below. And be sure to subscribe to the channel so that you're notified of all of our future videos, and check out our website, angelgilding.com. Thanks for stopping by.